Welcome to an Odyssey in Mixology. In this video, I'm going to take a detailed look into Nixta Liqueur and to a lesser extent, Abasolo whiskey. Enjoy! I like to refer to my bar as an ongoing accumulation, but that really just means I'm always on the lookout for interesting bottles. Before building this and the overflow shelves just out of sight, I had to be a bit more selective on what I bought. Shelf space and wallet size have always been the limiting factor for my home bar. After walking past this bottle for a few years now, I was finally time to buy it now that I have a place to put it. So this is Nixta. It's a corn-based liqueur from Mexico that released between 2020 and 2021. And that's unique for a lot of reasons. Not only did it manage to release during the height of the COVID pandemic, but it's also the world's first corn liqueur, and it comes from Mexico's first whiskey distillery. Nixta's journey starts in the Mexican city of Jilotepec. It's located in the municipality of the same name. Jilotepec's high elevation and climate is perfect for growing corn, so much so that the name literally means hill of corn cones. A short drive from the city center will bring you to Distileria Y Bodega Abasolo. If you're familiar with whiskey, then you might recognize the name because they also produce Abasolo whiskey. Abasolo whiskey was released at the same time as Nixta, and it's aged for around 3 years in a combination of new toasted oak and ex-bourbon barrels. It's a young whiskey from a young distillery that isn't taking shortcuts by borrowing someone else's distillate. I really respect that, and it also shares the first few production steps as Nixta. Now, in my opinion, the more interesting of these two is the Nixta, so that's where my focus is with this review. So let's take a look at the process behind this. The distillery starts production by sourcing an ancestral corn variety called Cacahuizantle from local farms. Ancestral or heirloom crops are not genetically modified like most of the produce we buy in a grocery store. They lack the availability, flexible growing conditions, or crop yield to make them mass producible. Instead, they're often dietary staples for cultures that have passed down the same crop for generations. In this case, the first cultivated form of Cacahuizantle corn is unknown, but archaeological evidence suggests that the first forms of maize were cultivated in present-day Mexico around 9,000 years ago. In present day, the crops are hand-harvested, sun-dried, and the kernels separated from the cob. The kernels are then soaked in an alkali solution to soften and bring out additional flavor. This process is called nixtamalization, and as you might have guessed, it's where the name Nixta comes from. When the kernels are rehydrated, they're roasted like a coffee bean and then turned into a fine flour that becomes the base of Abasolo's wash. This wash is then cooked, fermented, and double distilled. Now for the whiskey, the final distillate goes into barrels that sit out in the open until they're ready for bottling at around 43% ABV. For the liqueur, the distillate is cut and left to seep with more roasted corn kernels. Final processing outputs a 30% ABV liqueur that doesn't need artificial corn flavors to enhance it. The kernels added during the post-processing of the distillate is more than enough to bring out the flavors. Now, looking at the bottles and the distillery's infrastructure and hearing about their process, you might think that this sounds very expensive, and you'd be right. So you might be like me and then ask, well, what did they do before 2020 for them to release these products? And the answer to that is a big nothing. But if you look closely, there's a little asterisk right about here. And that's here because some of the key people supporting this distillery were previously involved in the creation and or scaling of Montelobos Mezcals and Ancho Reyes' line of spicy liqueurs. Their experience and, more importantly, their funds are being put to great use here. Now, ignoring the quality of the spirit inside for a second, Nixta and Abasolo's bottles are both striking, and their marketing in general is fantastic. So Nixta is a light amber liqueur, looks like straw or maybe corn. On the nose, it smells like caramel popcorn that's been roasted a bit too much. Now, that might sound negative, but it's actually a nice aroma. Without the over-roasted corn note, it would be a bit flat. The slight char on the corn is a great addition. You can tell that's from mixing the roasted kernels, with the final distillate very late in the process. If I was more in tune with my inner sommelier, I'd say there might be a bit of a nuttiness there too. But overall, it smells natural. It's a bit complex. So taste-wise, it's definitely similar to the aroma, but it takes the caramel note and makes it center stage, and it kind of pushes it towards butterscotch. The sweetness overshadows some of the roasted corn flavor that I liked on the smell. So if I had to rank the flavors by order of prevalence in this liqueur, then I think it would go butterscotch first, maybe slash that with caramel or just put caramel number 2. I don't, it's all kind of the same general sweetness. The roasted corn is still there. It has to go number 2. There's a salted buttery note, which is really interesting. There's hints of nuttiness in here too that I smelled a minute ago, but frankly, you could drop those off and I don't think I'd really be able to tell the difference. From a consistency standpoint, it is smooth. I mean, it's a little syrupy tasting, but I think that's expected based off of the sugar content. It's close to what I expected. And full disclosure, I've had this bottle for a while now. I've been making cocktails with it. I've been giving it, the best possible opportunity to present itself. And it definitely works in some cases. Not so much in others because that sweetness is not overpowering, but it is there. And it's there in exclamation marks and fully bolded. I was hoping this would be less sweet, but I think I understand why they did it, and it makes sense. So by itself, roasted corn is a tough flavor to work around, and adding sweetness to any spirit generally helps with mixing. As it stands right now, I think this is the best chance this liqueur has at kind of mass incorporation into drinks. With all that being said, I've always felt that verbally describing spirits only tells half their story. So this is the profile of Nixta. The further a point is from the center, then generally, the better the liqueur is in that aspect. Point in the middle ring just means that the aspect isn't bad or great. It's mediocre, and I'd correlate that to a C rating. I'm giving Nixta a B rating, because whilst there are a lot of positives, I think the sweetness removes some of the focus from the really great roasted corn flavors. Intensity, naturalness, uniqueness, and my thoughts after my last taste all took a bit of a negative hit from the sweetness, but there were still enough positives for me to be happy it's now part of my accumulation. So with all that being said, it's obvious that Nixta is a unique liqueur. And before making my own cocktail with it, I want to set a baseline for how the producer thinks it should be made. Now they have 4 recommended cocktail recipes on their website, but I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to make their Hilo Old Fashioned. So as recommended by the distillery, this is the Hilo Old Fashioned. And right off the bat, this is not your normal old fashioned, right? The addition of the liqueur enhances the silkiness and spice that I'd expect in a pure corn-based spirit. Now I made this drink with and without the citrus, and the citrus is definitely needed. The lemon works really well here, and it elevates a somewhat flatter drink to something intentionally light and spiced. It's a good cocktail to enjoy the subtleties of these unique spirits, but it doesn't knock my socks off. You might need to like corn-based spirits to appreciate it fully. That being said, if corn-based spirits are something that you're really into, this combination accentuates that flavor profile perfectly. I think it's really nice in that regard. It's a similar look to the liqueur profile overview, but it's instead aimed towards describing a cocktail. Unlike the liqueur profile, here, a point on the inner rings isn't necessarily a negative, and a point on the outermost rings isn't necessarily a positive. This is especially true for the primary flavors located on the right side of the chart. The Hilo Old Fashioned is a simple cocktail that does a really good job of highlighting this distillery's high-quality products. It's an enjoyable cocktail if you like corn-based spirits, but it is fairly lacking if you don't. It's a cool drink that I will make again, but both the spirit and the liqueur can be used in more interesting ways if you try. So now that there's a baseline on how to use Nixta, I want to make my own cocktail that actually does this justice because I don't feel like the ones on the website actually do. I showed the Hilo Old Fashioned, but I actually made 3 of the 4 that they have on there. They incorporated the Nixta in the easiest possible combination. So based on the process to get this liqueur and what it stands for, I think it's owed something more interesting. I started thinking about flavors that would pair nicely with Nixta. Vanilla, cinnamon, cream, coffee all came to mind. And seriously, this has all the hallmarks of making a killer coffee martini. But based on the amount of effort they've gone into producing it, I want to enhance the flavors, not kind of relegate them to the side. So the first bit of inspiration that came to mind was a Mexican street corn dish. Now that's kind of a weird idea for a cocktail, but it actually turned out to be a really cool starting point for a drink. And I iterated it maybe 5 or 6 times. Each time got a little bit better, except for a couple that really took a backtrack, but we'll gloss over those. And the one I'm gonna make now is what I really settled on as the best way to enhance the flavors that are already in this bottle. Mexican street corn is usually a mix of grilled corn, cilantro, lime, cayenne pepper, and cojita cheese. So to drinkify this, I'm actually gonna start with some fresh raw corn. Now, usually I'd combine these in a shaker, but I wanted to see the ingredients as I was adding them, so I'm using glass for now. Now, there are different kinds of corn varieties, so make sure you get sweet corn because it's one of the few that actually tastes good raw. Now, citric acid is kind of a weird ingredient. The purpose of this is to create acidity in the drink, but without the use of lemon or lime. Obviously, the more lemon or lime you add to a drink, the more lemon or lime it tastes, and the more citrusy it gets. Citrus is one of the key ways to increase the flavor of a drink, but you might not always want the lime or lemon flavor. That can be a bit overpowering, and especially in this cocktail, the corn is such a kind of a subtle flavor. I really want to draw that out, and adding the lime into it just completely overpowers the drink. This is one of the things I learned very quickly when I started iterating for this cocktail. Because it's so easy to overdo and underdo the citric acid, start on the side with an ounce of the non-acidic fruit juice. Just add the citric acid little by little until the fruit juice starts to taste maybe a bit less sour than a lime. Once you have a ratio that you like for that ounce of fruit juice, ratio that again to whatever the right amount of fruit juice you're adding to your cocktail is, and you're good to go. Now, I'm a big fan of mezcal, so much so that a disproportionate amount of my drinks are made with it. And for mixing, I usually default to Banjes or Four Caneos. Both of these are budget mezcals that come in at right around $30, $33, and they're very good for the money. It's hard to find a mezcal for under $30, so for 2 bottles to be at the very lowest end of the price range and to have a good quality to them is a really good thing. But I know some people aren't fans of mezcals. So just to cover my bases, I also made this drink with a Blanco tequila and a Sotol. Milagro is usually my go-to for mixing tequilas. I find them to be a really good balance between, price and quality. And I also have a Sotol here. I really like Sotols. It kind of stems from my love of mezcals. Sotol, if you're not really familiar with it, is a different kind of predominantly Mexican spirit made from the Sotol plant. From a taste standpoint, imagine the variation of mezcal, but minus the smokiness. And in general, I found that Sotols are a little greener on the taste. Both of these work just fine in this drink. Again, I prefer mezcal. The Sotol would have been my number 2, and the Milagro was probably my number 3, but I think you might get more mass appeal with this one. So again, either one, there's no wrong answer here. Now, the second to last ingredient that's going in here is going to be a 1/4 ounce of a raw agave nectar. It's important to get an agave nectar and not agave syrup, just because agave syrup is generally less sweeter. And I'm actually going to add a raw egg white. So as with all cocktails that use an egg white, it's very important to shake for 20 seconds before you add ice. combination of the bright raw corn goes really nicely with the roasted corn from this liqueur, as well as the earthy spice, and in this case, the mezcal smoke. All in all, it ties together really nicely. As I was pretty blunt in saying, the prevalence of corn gives it kind of a chalky flavor. It's not a negative, and in my opinion, it makes the drink a bit more unique. The lime and cilantro notes are there, but the citric acid is doing a great job of bringing out the acidity in the drink without allowing the lime to take over the corn. This adds a bit of depth and vibrancy to the flavor profile, creating an overall crisp and slightly astringent drink. Now, this isn't the most appealing color, but it looks like corn, so I'm happy with that. I'm giving my Lost Olmec cocktail an A- rating. It's unique, smooth, and has a lot of depth to the flavor. It's intentionally not extremely flavor forward though. Rather, it lets the creamy, chalky texture from the raw corn and egg white act as a backdrop that the smoke, spice, cilantro, and Nixta's roasted corn notes can be highlighted against. It's refreshingly crisp, but also fairly dense. Overall, I think it's a cool drink that relies on Nixta and gives a bit of an extra homage to both Abasolo's process and the crop itself. So as far as a high-level look on what the previous iterations of these drinks look like, I first started off with a heavier lime. It made the drink too lime forward and really overshadowed the corn itself. When I reduced the lime, this drink became a lot more flat, and when I added the citric acid, it became too sour. I reduced the cilantro to be a bit more of a background flavor, and then I increased the amount of raw corn. This made it a little bit more chalky, maybe a little bit more tart. I kind of liked that. It's not a flavor that I've seen in cocktails too often, or ever, really. But adding too much pepper overpowered the drink, and too little made this a bit bland. As I mentioned, the egg was a later addition, and it smoothed out the drink nicely. I really like the texture here too. And this is not the kind of cocktail that you would have 3 of, right after each other in an evening. It's interesting, it's unique, and it does an accurate job of enhancing the flavors of this liqueur. That's it for Nixta, but it'll show up again in future videos. On the next video, I'll be making one very cheap and one very expensive s'mores-based cocktail. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe. And thank you for watching.